Thank you all for being here. I'm Martin Every. Everybody calls me Mo, and I'm chairman of the board, which means I just get to attend the meetings and listen and learn from all the folks on the board. Been on this study group for the past several months. Been a big learning experience for me. And anyway, we'll start with a word of prayer. God, we love you. God, we praise you. God, give us wisdom. You promise that if we ask for wisdom, that you will grant it. Give us wisdom. Give us your love, and help us to express that love to all of our fellow Christians. Give us discernment. Help us to understand what's going on in the Methodist Church and what we need to do about it. Help us, God, to listen a lot more than we speak, and I understand that you're telling me that as well. We love you. We praise you. Be with us in this meeting. Amen. And my associates here. Here's the folks that are on the study team. If you have any questions about anything, these are the folks that are on the study team. If you know one of them, give them a call, ask them a question. With myself, I'm here. I see myself as support personnel today because this is about finances. My wife's on the front row, and she can attest I don't know finances, and that's why God put her with me. But I've learned a lot. We got Bradley down here at the end that's been chairman of the finance committee for a little over 2.5 years now, and businessman all his life, and God's blessed us with him and his finances. Megan is just awesome, which you will see if you haven't already. And Chris is older and wiser than the rest of us. Anyway, Megan, I'll hand it over to you.
So I get to be the rainbows and butterflies and sunshine, right? That's a pretty good job to have. If you did not attend our very first town hall meeting, then you missed. I got to talk a little bit about why I love this church, which is the easiest job that there is. I was born and raised in Dahlonega. I was baptized in this church at 6 months old, and I'm still trucking along 33 years later. So it's exciting. I love this church. It's a second home to me. But what's been really cool is ever since I made the video talking about my history with our church and growing up in the youth group and attending college ministry here and now raising my family here, so many people have reached out to me and told me why they love Dahlonega United Methodist Church, which is really, really, really cool. And so I'm going to share just a few little snippets of some of the things that people have shared with me since I made my video. So the first one is that one of the teachers that I work with at Blackburn came up to me and said, "Oh, I just loved your video. It made me want to cry. My daughter goes to the youth group at your church. We've never attended church there, but she loves it. And I never know where she is. And I call her. I'm like, hey, what are you doing?" She's like, "Oh, well, I'm at the church doing this." Or, "Oh, I'm with Chris Davis doing this." And it blows her mind that, she's worried about where her kid is and her kid's at church. And that just is a big testament to our youth program here. And I thought that was a really cool story. And she said, "I should probably start going because my kid loves it so much." I'm like, yeah. The next one was a friend of mine who is recently moved to Dahlonega. And she was saying she had attended our church 1 or 2 times. And she started going to the soccer field to watch her kid play soccer and go to Walmart. And she would run into people that saw her at church and remembered that she was someone who raised her hand for chocolate. And they specifically spoke to her, "Hey, how are you? Welcome to Dahlonega. Tell me about you. Tell me about your life." And she said she's never experienced where after she left the building of the church, she was just as welcome in the community, which I thought was a really, really cool story. The next one is over Christmas this last year, my small group and I did some community outreach, and we went into Birch River, Shasta, and we helped a lady put away her Christmas decorations in her attic who needed some help. And she was explaining to us in that moment that after her husband had died, she was really struggling to find a place to feel not so lonely, just a group of people to be friends with, and that it was our church that finally allowed her to have friends again, and a community of people since her husband had died, which I just thought was a big testament to the kind of people we have in the pews. And then the last one, I'm going to say their names, is a couple called Tony and Catherine Johnson. And they have a twin boy and a twin girl who are in 4th grade. And I have met their children through teaching at their elementary school. And I noticed that they had started coming to our church. Well, they recently joined our church. Their kids got baptized through the confirmation classes, and they're super involved in the community. Well, I do some outreach at our school, and I had seen them there, and I was talking to them, and he came up to me, and he just said, "Oh my goodness, I never knew life could be like this." It wasn't until we moved from Atlanta to Dahlonega where I experienced what small town community really was. He said, and it was the church that helped us get that. And he said, after we walked through the doors, we started making friends. Our kids made friends. They wanted to come here. When we came to school, the teachers that were at our school were the teachers that went to our church and taught the kids. We went out to the soccer fields, and the coaches were people that attended our church. You know, we walked around the community, and everyone knew our name, knew our kids' names, and were pouring into them the love of Jesus and how they didn't know that life could be like that. And it all started from being here at the church. And so these are just 4 tiny little stories of how our building and our church, but more than that, the people that come to our church every Sunday just make this community. And that's not going to change no matter what our name is or what symbol's outside. That's going to be the same no matter what our future holds. Because these people in these pews are how Jesus' word is spread. And so it's been really, really cool to hear everybody's story. So anyways, that is why I love and continue to love coming to church here. So now for the not as rainbows and butterflies, we're going to get into our finances and how the finances are going to help drive or affect the decision moving forward on whether or not we want to disaffiliate. So we have a little graph here for you on what the costs are going to look like for us. And this, let me say this, today is to talk specifically about finances. That's our topic, but we're going to get to a question and answer portion, and we want to go into any questions that you have. We are all slightly versed, not too much, but slightly versed on a lot of those topics. And so if there's other things that you want to know more information about, that's why we're here. And we definitely want these smaller groups to be more conversational unless we're presenting to you. So please feel free to raise your hand or ask a question at any point that you have. So I'm going to pass it over to Bradley.
All right, thank you. I'm Bradley McIntyre, and like Mo said, I'm the finance chair, and so I'm here representing our budget and some of the questions that you might have moving forward. So the bad part about these numbers, they're not real. They're just hypothetical numbers that we anticipate in the future. So if you're looking for some real specific things, we probably aren't going to have a whole lot of answers. But these numbers represent expenses in 2021 or 2022, and if the church moves forward with this affiliation, that would happen in 2023. And so there's a lot of factors that we don't control, and then based on the timing would affect our numbers for quote-unquote buyout or financial costs for disaffiliation. But let me go over them with you in general, and then I can give you a snapshot of the church's finances, and then I believe we're ready for questions. Is that correct? Okay, so the future pension liability buyout, that is for our staff. There's pension liabilities moving forward, and we basically have to pay those off. So it depends on market conditions at the time. So several people have asked me what those market conditions are. We're not really privy to that, but it's based, it's going to be based on interest rates and things like that. So as you all know, I'm in construction. I follow interest rates a lot. They're changing daily. So we're not real sure, but currently these are kind of our numbers. As of January 2021, our liability would have been about $130,000. In April, $81,000. So an additional year of apportionments. Currently, we're paying this year $83,609 is our apportionments to the conference, and so you pay an additional year of apportionments, plus whatever's left on the current year that you disaffiliate. So if you left early in the year, you would owe more of that year. If you left late in the year, you'd owe less. Really, the cost is the same to the church. We're going to pay our $83,000, fully, whether it's at the beginning of the year in advance or at the end of the year, And then we have miscellaneous expenses, things like name change, deed changes, mortgage change, all kinds of things. We've just estimated, we've talked to a couple of attorneys. We've done our best to try to estimate that high. We think we could probably pull that off for about $30,000, though we are already finding people who are wanting to volunteer some of those services to help, if they have that opportunity, they'd love to help us at a better rate. So we're forecasting, to kind of show, if you had a graph of the different times of the year, currently our closest number is $258,000. That would be the cost to disaffiliate. So your next question is, well, does the church have $258,000, right? So here's the gist, and I'm happy to answer any other questions, but this 5-page report would get a little boring. Currently, the church has a $1.34 million budget. Last year, we were right at $1.3 million. The year before that, we were at $1.2 million. We had 100 and change surplus last year, so a lot to celebrate. It's rare that churches have surplus, and the last 3 years, actually the last 3 years, we've had a surplus. So the church is doing very well. I told you our apportionments are $83,000. A lot of people have asked me about staff benefits, because you inherit a lot of those staff benefits in a disaffiliation. We pay those anyhow, so that's really not an extra charge to the church. It feels like the conference pays for them, but we actually give them money for that. So, currently we have about $830,000 in our budget for staff benefits, salaries and benefits. So those numbers are already covered. Along the lines of that graph, we've already paid almost $35,000 this year in our apportionment, so we're left with only $48,000 currently for the year. We have about $530,000 in cash, unrestricted cash, which the Finance Committee has been working very diligently to save. As you know, we came through COVID like a miracle. Our church thrived both in ministry and changing lives and financially during COVID, and it was quite a blessing. But we learned what it's like to wonder where the money's going to come from when church was closed down for a long time. So the Finance Committee has a minimum of 3 months of basically income set aside in case we had to go without for a few months, what we call the rainy day fund. Our current debt between our property next door and the building is about $1.6 million. We pay that very easily. We've got great financing currently, and we've actually set aside the money outside of our budget to cover all of our mortgage payments. So we were able to pay cash for that this year, which is wonderful outside of our budget, which allowed us to put more money into ministry and less, it didn't tax our budget for debt. Because of our surplus last year, we decided to go ahead and pay for the debt that way and allow that more of that $1.3 million to go toward ministry, to the people that are doing ministry on the ground. So that's kind of a snapshot of our finances. It is our understanding and intent that if we needed to come up with $250,000 to $320,000, that would be obviously we would have a majority vote on that, and we understand that would be pretty low-hanging fruit to try to raise that and not take out our, savings to do something like that. So we feel pretty confident that that money can be raised pretty quickly, if needed. So, anything else before we open it up for questions?
Mo, do you want to talk about that really quick?
Oh, yeah, this is, and Robin or somebody else may know better than me, but at any rate, Westpath that's the folks that handle, all the pension. That's where the money gets invested and so forth. And myself, having not been very familiar, I just started doing an internet search, went to their website, did a little bit of reading. This is a 18-minute video that talks about understanding pension liability for folks that are going to disaffiliate. And I've listened to it about 3 times, including backing up, re-listening, making notes, backing up, re-listening. I'm a nurse, paramedic, I'm not an actuary, and it confirmed that. But seriously, it was very helpful in understanding some of the stuff because they address specifically the questions that this meeting is called for. Anyway, have a look at that, look it up, listen to it, and it was very helpful to me, not being a financial person.
We're not going to show it because it's 18 minutes long, and you may not be interested in it. But what I do want you to see is how you can find all this information and all of our resources, and I'll show you that in just a second. But we have slowly come to, what is our purpose and our vision in all of this? And we came with this little headline, Preserve the Spirit. And so that's going to be kind of our focus in all of these. And that whether we disaffiliate or not, that our church will be the same welcoming, spirit-filled church that it's always been. And we want to make sure that that message is presented loud and clear. As we are coming up with more information and we find out more information and we move forward with this process, because this is really what it is, it's a process. We have put on our main webpage. So when you go to dumc.com, on the main webpage, there is this little rectangle down here, and I put an arrow there, and it's linked. So you click there, and it's going to open up our page that has all of our presentations. That video that Mo was just talking about is on there. All of the resources that we found, every handout that we think is beneficial to you, we have linked in there. And so it's really a place for you to research more on what you specifically need, because we can sit up here and talk to you and talk about all this stuff, but we don't know what your specific needs are. And so that's a place for us to just be updating you with that information. Oh, it went away. Okay, I'll pull it back up. So now we're just going to open the floor for questions, because we know a lot of you have questions about what the future looks like. So I'm going to give you the mic, and I'm going to fix this.
First off, when do we vote? When does that come up?
So, we received an email about that this morning, didn't we, Robin? There's a window from January to March that was the slot in which we notify the conference whether or not we request disaffiliation or not, and you cannot vote until after January. Is that correct, Robin? So it will be after January when we are allowed to vote through the conference.
All right.
John?
What?
John, I believe that their board says a letter wanting to do that back in this fall, but we can't vote until
That's
after.
correct, thank you. I forgot to mention that, thank you. So if our committee,
I got one question.
if this committee thinks that the church body is ready for a vote, they will present it to the administrative board, and the administrative board will say, are we gonna vote on this or not? And then if the administrative board says, yeah, let's have a vote, then we have a church vote.
So that's gonna be like January first of next year?
It'll be in preparation for January, yes. Those steps will have to happen ahead of time.
If it passes, what happens then? We leave.
So that will be, approved, at annual conference in June,
Who owns the building?
the conference, the North Georgia
And
Conference.
we have a mortgage on it,
Correct.
and don't you have to pay off your mortgage before you can disaffiliate
No, we would inherit the building, with the mortgage.
with the mortgage?
Yes.
Yes.
So we get.
We are responsible for the mortgage, the church owns the property.
Okay.
The conference, I'm sorry.
All right, what about Steve? Does he go back into the pool, or does he stay here, or what?
So it's my understanding, Robin, please jump in, just like wave if
And
I said
Robin.
something bad. But the pastors have the choice to, go with the church, or they can disaffiliate with or without the church.
I try not to say anything, because, so yes, everything that Bradley is saying is correct. In regards to the vote, it will go before administrative board then will vote to determine whether or not we will take a vote. At that point, the conference has informed us that they will not accept any letters, asking for that vote until January 1st. So they'll begin to receive letters after January 1st. The first possible time that we will be able to take a vote will be March 1st. And that's kind of what we've been told right now. As for, this is why Steve and I step aside, we let you guys do this. Steve and I have to make an individual decision. You, as the church, have to make a decision. They are two separate decisions. So.
We add to that just the fact that Steve and Robin are our appointed ministers through June 30th, 2023. So nothing can change, or nothing should change until then as far as our appointments go, and by then we should know what our future's gonna be. But they make their decision, we laity make our decision for the church.
I have two questions. One on the salary of the staff. Are we gonna be able to manage that if we pull out of this conference? And the other thing is, rumor is going around that it takes just one vote in the conference, and this will be null and void as far as trying to leave the conference.
Simple majority.
We currently already pay all of our salaries and benefits. That won't change. So there should be, right, Bradley, no additional cost for that. As far as voting in the conference, it's a simple majority. So 50% plus one person votes yes, then, and at last conference, the vote was almost 93% in favor of allowing churches who requested it to disaffiliate. I don't think that's gonna be a problem.
Did you see another meeting back here?
I just had a quick question. The administrative board of which Robin referred, are they members of our church?
Yeah, when we say administrative board, that's us.
Okay.
That's the folks here.
Okay.
Bradley, I understand that when we make the vote, that's kind of like locking in your rate. Is that correct?
The day that we vote.
The day we vote locks in what you're gonna pay. In my opinion, this after the January 1st is gonna be to our advantage because I believe the market is going to repair during the next 6 months. And if the market gets better, that means we have less of an obligation to fund. Is that not correct?
That's our,
Yes.
yes, that's our understanding, I hope as well, yeah.
It better repair.
I am in favor of that, and my 401k is.
There was a push to try to move forward, but the conference said no.
So far, I've been to all of these meetings, and I'm seeing some of the same people, a few new faces, and my question is, how about the rest of the church, which is the bigger count? Because if all of us voted the same way, it really wouldn't have much bearing, I don't think. How are they gonna get the information that they need to be mindful of their reason for voting and being present? And I guess the second part to that would be, well, let's just go with that part.
Yeah, and in fact, I can address that, and I saw you on the recording of one of the last meetings, and this fine young gentleman had wonderful words that God led him to speak at one of the meetings. I was at work. I'm gonna retire 2 years, 4 months, and 18 days away. But I had to be at work. And we see that we have 1,600 members, and we don't have 1,600 here today, just like you said. But thanks to Chuck Bell et al., who takes care of all of our IT stuff, we can look online. And when you see fellow members and say, hey, did you see, the town hall meeting? Go to the website, and just what Miss Bubbly here, God bless her, go to the website and watch it. That's what I did yesterday, was I watched them and backed up and watched again. And they're inspirational. And in fact, the trust clause and who owns the building and so forth was addressed pretty good. Can't remember if it was the last, was it yesterday?
Yeah.
Before, yeah. And that was very informative. I learned a lot from that.
Can you tell how many people are watching this?
Yes, Chuck Bell does know how many people are watching it. After the town hall meeting, you just asked him?
Yeah, you can.
Okay. After our initial town hall meeting, we did bring up the fact that the majority of the people in the meeting were of our older population of members, and that how are we reaching the younger population? Well, one way is that Robin and Steve have reached out through the NESA, through our children's ministry, and has had meetings with those parents. So specifically open a forum for questions and conversation with the parents of the children that attend our church. So that's one way. The second way is Chris Davis is committed to communicating with the youth and their parents. So that's another way they're getting involved. But I think Mo hit the nail on the head that someone my age with a 3-year-old, we don't have time to attend a meeting. And we're gonna watch it online at 10 o'clock at night after we go to bed. But we do see that this is something we need to continue to address, and that their views might look and feel differently than yours. And so it's very important that everyone is getting the information, and that they're being heard in how they feel, because they do represent a huge part of our membership. And so that's something Bradley and I specifically spoke about this morning. We're a little disheartened that these are the people we continue to see here, and what could we do to better make sure that every member of our congregation is having an opportunity to be heard as well as be fed information. And so thank you, and we are trying to address it the best way we can.
The other part of that question was, Linda Herman shared with me that she had spoken to some other church, and one of the things they're doing is they're having what they call straw vote. They're sending out alerts and you don't identify yourself, you just answer the question that says, do you have, and then if you want more information, there's a way to, some way to identify your contacts so you can get the information you need if you can't attend meetings. Is that something we could consider doing? That way you get a sort of a feel as you go through the next couple of months of how people are reacting?
Yes, I will say our study group has talked about that in depth. What we could do, what would that look like if we wanted to do that, and that's still something that we're continuing to discuss through. We haven't quite made a decision on if we're going to go that route, but that is something that has continually been a part of our conversation. So I don't have an answer for you quite yet on whether we're going to do a straw vote, but it is something we keep talking about.
Thank you, Mel. I'm going to talk to the seniors. I'm 75 years old. I'm not the oldest person in our church, but I am 75. This is not a Facebook thing. It's not a Twitter thing. This is just an internet search for our website. anybody who may be homebound or doesn't know how to use a computer or is afraid of the computer, I'm sure that if they contact my wife, Linda Carroll, contact me, any of these people, we'll make sure that we either go to them or they'll have an opportunity to come here or the library, wherever, so they can have as much time as they want to cipher all these meetings. Love is an important part of this. And we have a loving church. Let's keep it that way.
And you folks that are here today, talk to your friends, talk to your coworkers. Listen, I'm back at work, I gotta retire. But yeah, talk to your fellow members about this, yes.
Good thing is, Jim's older than me, I'm only 71, so I'm the young one. Question, Bradley, do we have to refinance, and if so, is there interest rate change on that expected?
So I think we'll be able to just do a name change. We just refinanced, we just had our loan modified because we were on an adjustable rate, and as rates were fixing to go up, we were locked in through the end of the year, but we were scared of what was gonna happen next year. So a big shout out to United Community Bank and Eddie Wayne. They just locked us in for another 4 years, is that correct, Karen?
I think closer to
7 years. So we're locked in, but we don't anticipate having to refinance, but to do a legal name change.
Very good. And as long as I'm back here by Karen, if you don't know, this is Karen. She's our business manager. Wonderful asset to our church. She knows the numbers and she's very helpful. Do you want to say anything?
No.
She's awesome. I remember the first meeting, and I was, as chairman of the board, the meeting will come to order, and then this is the finance committee, and then she started talking, and it's like, God put her here. God put her here, and she is a blessing to this church. And if you have financial questions, she is also a wonderful resource. Further questions for you? Yes, sir.
Am I to understand, I think I understood this, the actual vote is only those who are present. It's not 1,607 members.
Yes. Present and members.
You have to be present and a member.
Affirmative.
So those that don't have an interest in coming, they don't have a vote.
Right.
That's right, if 100 people show up, 100 people will make the
Yes.
That's correct.
Good point.
Which is our responsibility to make sure that everyone knows when the vote is, that they can get here, and we will make every effort to make sure that everyone who wants to be here has the ability to be here.
It's a quick question, you can answer it from right there.
Yes.
If husband and wife are both members, is that 2 votes or is it
Affirmative.
1 vote for the family?
2.
2 votes.
2 votes.
It also
Bring the
includes,
kids.
It also includes our youth who have been confirmed members of our church. So it also includes that body, which is again, while Chris Davis is a great person and a good resource for us, and he's actively working to inform them, because they have a vote in this as well.
Coming back to the timing of the vote, at the risk of repeating something I said last Tuesday or last week, it's not just important that people are told about the vote date, it's important to get that date established as early as possible for people who travel, people who have activities, and who actually want to be present.
Yes, that's a good point. And I'm glad to meet you. I've heard your voice. I heard his voice, but he wasn't in front of the camera. And I would encourage you all, listen to the previous ones, because he had some good
Now,
comments.
Robin, once we file saying that we would like to take a vote, the conference sets our vote date, or, yes. So the conference will set our vote date once we file, once the administrative report approves that we're moving forward with the vote.
There will be plenty of time, Robin says.
Is there an age limit on these, children voting?
Age limit on the children voting,
Membership.
Yeah.
confirmation.
Confirmation, and most of those children are
Membership.
13, 10,
It's membership.
12.
Yeah. If they're concerned, they have a vote.
I have no idea.
As young, Steve confirms as young as 11, it's usually someone in 4th grade. This year we had 2 4th graders, so they're now 5th graders, they're 11 years old. That would be the youngest members we have right now.
So the youngest members we have are about 11 as far as voting age, which would be
We have a 10-year-old.
confirmation.
When
She's
you
not
10.
11 yet, she's 10.
Okay, 10. All right.
You say the conference sets the date for the vote. Once that's done, can we set the times of the vote? So if they say January 2nd, we can say on January 2nd, you can vote from 6 a.m. to midnight.
No, the district superintendent is the one who calls for the vote, he sets the date, time, place, and time, everybody's here, we vote simultaneously. Is that your question?
Written ballot. Very good, thank you.
So they could set the vote in Valdosta if they want to.
It's nice this time of year, though.
Not quite 110 degrees there this week.
It's right, that way.
I have another question. What about the people that are active members of the church, but they're in assisted living or something, they can't get to the church as many times as they'd like to during?
You know, that's a good question. As I understand it, I'm looking at my authority back here. Present, you have to be present to vote.
But we could organize something to get them.
Exactly, I think that's what Megan was.
Yeah, we as a group have discussed that. When we get to that point, we will problem solve. If someone is actively wanting to be here and they physically, they can get off a ventilator or whatever it may be, we will help make sure that they get here. But in terms of those people that physically cannot leave their space, they're not able to be. There's not
You fit in the helicopter.
I'll fly them in, we'll land out in the ball field. Our ventilator's portable, we can do this. No, that's good. We will, that is something that will need to be addressed.
Several of us have pickup trucks.
You know,
Accommodate 4 wheelchairs in the back of mine.
43 years at EMS, I've done wilder things. Horseback, motorcycles.
Like Megan said, it's a problem-solving problem that can be worked out.
And again, we are a community, if you couldn't have heard it from the many, many testimonies that I have from people that just feel the love, that is gonna be there through all of this. And it's really important that, the words we speak with our name, Delano United Methodist Church, are in a positive manner. Because the person 2 rows down from me sitting at the Waffle House, listening to you talk about the struggles that are happening globally in our denomination, do reflect and affect our name and our little town. And us as individuals in this building don't have hostility towards each other. We aren't a place of divisiveness. We're a place of love and acceptance, and you feel that in the community. And we want to make sure that as we leave these meetings and we're talking, I'm not saying don't talk about it, but remember those things. You know, that what we say and how we present the issues we're facing, we want to do it in a way that is continuing to make our little light shine in this little bubble that we're in, because we really are in a little bubble here in Dahlonega. We are lucky that it's not affecting us harder than it is. We really have so much growth financially, membership-wise. You know, a lot of the people sitting here don't get to see the snapshot of how our younger groupings in this building are literally busting at the seams. Our Vacation Bible School, we did not have enough room for the children in this building. Literally did not have enough space to take any more children. We had so many kids in this building, so many volunteers.
250 some.
It was mind-boggling and wonderful to see the work that Jesus is doing through our staff and the people of this church. So
Amen.
Limited only by the fire code.
Yeah, fire code.
Yeah,
Otherwise-
limited by the fire code, which is a blessing to have that kind of a problem. 80, over 80 have joined the church this year. Since 2015, I think it's over 350 or so have joined the church. If you look across, the Methodist churches in North Georgia, and nationally, that is not the case. A lot of churches have lost, significant numbers. Again, watch the video. Am I doing a commercial for that? Good stuff, good information, and those, if you were not able to meet them, to be there, and some of those numbers are addressed.
Let's say for conversation, we voted to leave in the first quarter of next year. What would be the schedule of events after that?
If we vote to disaffiliate next February, March, whenever we're allowed, then we have to get all of our paperwork in order by, is it May 1st, I believe, and submit it to the conference. We have to make payments of our apportionments, submit it to the conference, and then it goes to a vote, an annual conference, which is the first week in June. And once they vote yes or no, which probably will be yes, then we have, I think, until the end of the month to get everything else done, and then we are officially on our own, no longer a part of the United Methodist Church. So it's gonna happen pretty fast, which is why we are so concerned about getting the education part out to the membership now, because once that process begins, then we have some type of deadline.
And after that happens, if we disaffiliate, at that time we become independent, or we look at joining another denomination such as the Global Methodist Church.
Which is the topic of the next meeting.
Advertisement.
Good segue.
I will be. I don't believe they will. I was a delegate to the conference this year. I was there for the vote. There was no contention. There was a lot of love and concern expressed in that we wish each other well on our separate journeys going forward. 70 churches applied to disaffiliate. There was not even any discussion one way or the other. It was an up or down vote and passed by 92-point-something%, and with prayer and well wishes. So I've been going to conference for almost 50 years, and I would be very surprised if there was any opposition. I think it'll be pretty much a done deal once the church gets its act together. If we ask to go, I think they'll send us on our way. Robin, you agree?
Yes.
She is one of our assets on the community. She's a wealth of knowledge, a lifetime in the Methodist Church.
I'm gonna back up about 3 minutes. First of all, Sue, thank you very much. This vote thing that we're talking about, let's don't put too many spiders up in the trees. A simple vote, you have to be in person, is what it is. If we try to start doing some other things to make every single person have the ability to vote, that is just gonna tie things up. And somebody will not be happy. The conference says an in-person vote, that's it. In other words, what I'm trying to say is, let's not worry our hearts over this, because the Holy Spirit's gonna be in it, no matter what we do, if we allow the Holy Spirit to run our thing. Thank you.
I have a question for you, Bradley. I liken this to a house closing. Funds are there, and we've paid the funds. Now we're waiting for the approval. Is there any chance that if they don't give the approval, they keep the funds? That's the question.
I don't think so. It's our understanding that it's kind of like you said, like a house closing. If the vote doesn't go through, there's no expenses. Those expenses are all tied to the disaffiliation.
Thank you. That's
Yep.
I understood that.
Yep.
It's tied to that.
Correct.
Okay, got it.
Yep.
I just have a comment. Anybody who has been paying attention knows what the stock market has done of late. And from what we have seen here, from what you have presented, as the stock market goes up, our obligation is to pay less for the apportionment, for the, not apportionment, but for the pension liability and that kind of thing. And I was reading a newsletter from a financial fellow recently, and he said that it's hard to get hurt when you fall out of the basement. And we are in the basement now as far as the stock market is concerned. It could get lower, but very likely between now and January, or whenever we can have that vote and it's approved, I don't have any concern about our ability to pay what we have to pay to disassociate. So I'm glad for the committee here and the information you have presented.
Good comments.
It's down right now, minus 442.
It's good. My Dave Ramsey advisor says stocks are on sale right now. Good comments, thank you.
And
Yes,
it's
ma'am.
not just the stock market, it's bonds,
Yes,
it's
ma'am.
treasury funds,
Yes.
it's other things that are not necessarily
Yes,
tied to the
yes.
stock market. There are other things that are going to drive this.
Yes, that's
When
true.
I say
That's
stock
true.
market, generally.
Yeah, stocks,
every
bonds.
market would be,
And that video that we talked about earlier addresses it.
Oh, there's somebody behind you.
Behind me, all right. Yes,
I
sir.
don't need that.
Yes.
In my notes, I have next Tuesday meeting, I have written next to it, the vote.
No.
Is that, what is the subject of next Tuesday's meeting?
Voting process.
Voting
Yeah,
process,
it is.
no.
Just discussing the system.
Tuesday, we're discussing options
Tuesday, we're discussing options
about disaffiliation, independent, or another denomination.
Okay.
about,
Thursday, we'll discuss the voting process.
Thursday, we'll discuss the voting process, okay? And yes, and if you go to the website and click, it actually lists the meetings and what they were. Hi, Scotty, I didn't see you earlier.
And we as a subcommittee, as like our little study group, we have different things that we're more versed on. So those specific people, because there's a lot of us, will be at those specific meetings that will give a little bit more information. Yeah. Any more questions?
Yeah, my name is Rick Turner, and as a lot of you know, we've been coming here a lot longer than we've been members. Isn't that right, Bobby? I think we've been coming here 10, 12 years. We've been members for about a year and a half. So it gets back to something somebody said early on about it would behoove us to figure out a way to do some straw votes, because as close as we think we are, when we vote, if we vote to disaffiliate, we're gonna lose some people. And when you lose some people, we're gonna lose a certain amount of revenue. So all these numbers that we're laying out are, if this vote were 60-40, we're in trouble. We're in real trouble. So anyway, I just suggest that we do figure out a way to do a straw vote, kind of get a handle on where we are, because it's gonna take a lot of uncertainty out of this. Thank you.
Yeah, it is something that we will take into consideration, you know, and as we look at this, and we attended, Terry and I have attended here for several years, before we, joined. I love God, I love Jesus. I get up in the morning, I have my prayer time, my Bible study time, church. I don't want to say this get it the wrong way, but church is a small part of our Christian life. Our Christian life is 24/7. And Chuck Bell was even talking about a dream he had last night that was about God and Jesus. So if we put our mind to focus on Jesus and serving Him, this will all work out. This will all work. So many uncertainties that we don't know, but Jesus is the same yesterday, today, and forever. He hasn't changed. He loves us. He'll take care of us. And I want to know what the vote is too. but trust in God.
I will say the study group is comprised of people of lots of different pockets of our membership. So groups of people that are in the older groups of people that are younger, groups of people that are involved in this organization for this organization, groups of people who are highly involved in our finances, groups of people who have no clue anything about it, you know, and that's a good place to be, because when we sit and talk as a study group, we have lots of discussion, and we're not always on the same page, and that's good, because it makes us think about things differently and come about things differently, and so when you say things like that, we will absolutely take it back to the group and talk about this is something that continually comes up. So,
well, and I think I hear the spirit of your comment is that you don't want to show up and find out the church is divided, correct?
That's correct.
Right. And so you're right. It goes back to the earlier comment about where the less than 50 crowd, they're not here. They haven't been at any of them. And we got to get the word out, you know, and that's why we talked about having, you know, some kind of survey or straw vote, because we're trying to get everybody. We're trying every avenue possible to reach everybody, because we do want it to be, we want to be consistent. We think our church is really unified, really consistent, but there's a big void right now we got to make sure, if I hear you right, it's so that we don't find out we're divided. We want to be consistent, not lose what we have, because what we have is a great thing. So.
And that is what we are trying to keep our focus back on. The purpose of this is that we are moving forward as a congregation. The building, the name, those things are not what makes this body of believers. And we want to make sure this body of believers is moving the direction that's the closest to their hearts and what's important to them. And that's what we're trying to make sure that we are representing your voice the best we can. And that's the whole body's voice.
Yeah, go ahead.
I've listened to the last few minutes of comments. It does remind me a bit, though, of what Joshua said, is for me and my household, we're going to serve the Lord. You all choose what you want to do. And whether or not the straw vote, I'm on board with whatever's decided, but that's not going to influence anything. It's like a poll in the politics. What do the polls do? Blah, 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 blah. And so, to me, what's going to happen is going to happen. God's going to direct it. As for me and my household, we're going to serve the Lord. So why would we want to try to influence what's going to happen by trying to find out where people are going to go? I don't know.
It is a very personal, each person gets their own vote.
Well, what we're trying to do, though, as a committee is figure out, what does the church want? Does the church want to vote, or does the church not want to vote?
And there are some people who are...
The vote is not a foregone conclusion, in other words.
Gotcha. All right.
Now, to your point, though, once the vote, yes, you know, but, you know, eventually we're going to have to find out, you know, what is it the church wants to do. They want a chance to vote on it.
The thing is, if you like the church as it exists today, with the outreach, with the congregation as it is, in fact, I don't know that I need this, but thank you. I can attract attention. and how? I have the paperwork to prove it. Literally. If we vote to disaffiliate, it is almost a foregone conclusion that nothing will change in the local church. All right? If we vote to not disaffiliate, that is to remain with the United Methodist Church, this church will change. Right. It may not change immediately, but as soon as pastoral reappointments occur, it will change. So what, I guess I just came off the fence. I've tried to stay impartial until now. If you like our church the way it exists, we need to disaffiliate and change the sign out front to whatever. And I don't think people are going to leave the church because we want it to stay the same. I believe as Mo pointed out, that if we believe God is sovereign and we trust God and are guided by the Holy Spirit, God will bless us, as evidenced by the last 3 years of growth and contributions to this church. We have done what God has called us to do, and we have been tremendously blessed by it. I believe that if we continue to do that, God will continue to bless us. But that, I think that's enough. Thank you.
He did a great job. I will say though that that's why our subcommittee is lots of different opinions, so that we are representing every opinion, no matter how strong. But some of us through this process have gotten off the fence. You know what I'm saying? In both ways. And so, you know, the more that we know, the more informed decision we can make, and we hope that you do the same thing. The more information you find out, we hope you come up with an informed decision on how you're gonna vote.
And the next, that was an advertisement for the next meeting, which is, tell me the date.
Tuesday.
Tuesday?
At 6:30 right here.
It's Tuesday, 6:30 p.m.
Time for one more comment?
One more comment from Nick.
I agree with what everybody has said, but
My interpretation of part of what this gentleman said was that he's talking to the finance committee. It wouldn't be bad to have a planning scenario that says, 200 people leave the church, and what happens then to our revenue? That's the side that I understood. So it's just a practical side that has consequences, even if what we all agree to is going to happen.
That's, and that's something to consider. That's something that a lot of churches are happening right now. One church just south of here lost 25% in the last few years. That does happen, but we'll keep our eyes on the Lord. It is almost 1 o'clock, so we're going to wrap it up. I'm not leaving, and everybody else is probably going to stick around here for further questions. And I want to ask my friend if she would like to close us with a word of prayer. Thank you.
Dear Lord, you know our hearts. You are here with us today. We feel your presence in this place. And we are asking, we are praying most sincerely that your presence remain with us. We seek your will. Our future might be unknown, Lord, but you are a known God. And in that, we place our trust, we place our confidence, we place our future in your hands. We ask that you speak to us, let us hear your voice clearly, those of us who are here and those of us who might go online or hear from a friend. We only ask your presence with us as we try to discern your future for us. Bless us now, Lord. Thank you for everyone who has contributed today, and help us to go out and be a witness for you in this hurting world. We love you, Lord.